In the past, this information has been suppressed, but now it can be told. Every man, woman, and mutant on this planet shall know the truth about de-evolution.
We're nice guys now. We're not up to anything.
Right, we'd like to go on record as saying that, too. We're safe as milk. Some of us had had our fill of interacting with the record business. And it was only just watching everything fall apart and become a crazy, chaotic world, a business situation that made us interested in getting back involved again. We saw possibilities that weren't there back in the days when people used to lecture us about what it meant to be putting out records.
Music's been devalued, right? I mean, music doesn't have the same place in the culture it did. It's certainly been devalued monetarily, but I also think in terms of the significance of the content, nobody pays any attention. So music is your lost leader if you're trying to bring your message or your brand back into the culture. I think our new music can fit right in, and a case in point was Coachella, where the audience was mostly 20-somethings. We played new songs mixed in with the old ones, and they didn't even know they were new.
You know, music styles can change. You know, like the first album, the equipment we could afford and what we had at the time, we ended up sounding like a punk band. You know, by the time we were doing the fourth album, we were on our way towards a Fairlight, and we're using other technology, you know, every step of the way, and this album was no different in that sense. You know, we used computers, and we also used circuit bent toys, you know, and deconstructed musical instruments that young tortured kids from around the world, you know, they sit there and change the circuitry in these things, you know, like this thing here, for instance, which did get used on our record. They change the circuitry around and they give you a new way to think about performance, and I think that's something that's a thread that is still there, and that's the important part.
Nixon had expanded the war into Cambodia from Vietnam, which was already a bad war. And he did this without an act of Congress at a time when the population still was cognizant enough of their own constitution to know that was a breach. This was a big deal. They'd all seen it on the Sunday night news with Walter Cronkite, and everybody knew what was going to happen that day. So, huge number of students out there about that. And the Guard were hidden, laying for them, waiting for them. It was a trap. They were hidden in buildings, and they came out and they surrounded us. And so they ordered us, disperse, illegal assembly, you know. And what do you think the students did? You know, fuck you, hell no. And then the games began where they shot tear gas at us all, and we were all running. And they're kind of corralling us over the hill towards the practice football field where they could round everybody up and put them on buses and arrest them. And people thought it was a typical protest game. And then it just turned into, you know, something exponentially worse that no one could have guessed. Live ammo from M1 rifles at unarmed students. You got to see brute power win the day. You got to see them lie. So you see that illegitimate authority controls the writing of history and people's perceptions. And innocent students were murdered and they got away with it.
Hoping it's the fools. To hunt you down and tase you, bro, for playing with the rules. Don't shoot!
It's a plea to humanity to cut the violence. You know, it's kind of a Rodney King.
Which is interesting because, you know, the don't tase me, bro.
Yeah, reference, yeah.
They recently did a TV game show in Europe where they brought back an experiment that was done in the 50s where people were in a room with a two-way mirror, and they were told they could shock the person in the other room every time he got an answer wrong. And they were told that up to here it was safe, but if they went from about 6 to 10, it could be dangerous and might even stop the guy's heart. And once people were told that guy couldn't see them, they just, just were giving them the biggest shocks they could, whether the person conducting the experiment told them to or not. One more piece of video evidence of human nature and the dark absurdity of it all.